Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we have a special one. I got Viper right here with me, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Web2 trends and how we can apply them in Illuvium. Hi, Viper. How is it going?
Hey, happy to be here and happy to talk about gaming. I don't know. I love to do that.
Yeah, me too. And we're going to do it a little bit more podcast style. So we're just going to spitball some ideas and talk about some things that we think are really important for games and that we think we can bring to Illuvium from other games that are very successful. And I know you've been playing a new game that just came out.
Yeah. The studio Hoyoverse that had one of the most successful mobile games in the recent few years. They brought out a new game. It's like they always do. It's mobile, PlayStation, and PC. You can play on every platform, and it's called Honkai Star Rail. It's, I don't know, a lot of the really, really nice in-game features or the feedback that they had from their previously super successful game are just put into this, and they're amplified by a margin. It's, I don't know, especially compared to all these other games that come out and it's like unfinished or bugs or issues and whatnot. This is like close to perfect. It's really, really insane how good of a job they did on the quality of life side, and I think there's a lot to learn from it.
Yeah, I've watched you play it a little bit and it looked super polished. For me, I wanted to talk about League of Legends because I'm still addicted to it and I'm playing it way too much, but I think there's a reason for that. And I think there's a lot of things that we can take from this game, which has been successful over the last 15 years and is probably one of the biggest games in the gaming industry as a whole and has pioneered a lot of things. The free-to-play model, for example, they've pioneered this, and there's a lot of good stuff in there that we can highlight.
There's some cool anecdotes towards League and what you said they pioneered free-to-play. When they first essentially were, I don't know, coining the game and the idea of no single-player campaign and everything free-to-play, only skin monetization, a lot of investors and studios were like, this is never going to work.
Yeah. And look at them now. Yeah, right here I'm in a custom map in League, and one thing that I really like is the shop. So if you click at the shop right here, you have suggested items, which is really nice for newcomers, so they don't have to work through all the items and find out which one is best for them. If you go into all the items you see, you can sort them by support, tank, mage, or whatever you want to focus on. And if you click on an item right here, it actually shows you the whole tree, how it's built. This comes more from Dota. It's not like a new system, but I think they made it very intuitive. And I think we can learn a lot from this menu, for example, in the overworld, when we handle storage and forge and everything. It's still very clunky and very not very user-friendly. So I think that's a key element of League that we can look at. What do you think about this?
They only recently implemented this, right? It's only a few years old. So they really took some feedback and were thinking on how to do stuff. Do you still remember when they did these, like, the pre-version of this where they had item sets that you could pre-make and so on?
Yeah.
And you could show that. Like, I feel like that was a failed feature. I feel like nobody ever used that because it was weird.
I think you can still do it right here. You still got item sets and you can create your own item sets for your champions, but nobody uses that. It's too much work. You have to do this extra outside the game and nobody...
Yeah, people just want to play the game and then do that. Yeah. They don't want to prepare for the before the game. Okay, maybe if I am against this, then I'm going to make this item set, and against 180 other characters, yeah, you're not going to make 180 item sets.
Yeah, definitely. There's also a good thing where, again, you're very beginner friendly. If you want to buy stuff, you can see what's good against the people you play against. So you have usually right here is a recommendation. Oh, that's good versus the champion that you play against. So now you should buy that. I guess it's hard to compare with Illuvium right now since it's not a finished product yet. So there's a lot more things to come. We cannot just say, yo, you need to change this right now because it's going to be changed sooner or later. But I think we go a similar path where it's at the front page, it's very beginner-like for beginners, and then you jump into the details, and then you can get really into the nitty-gritty and find all the little details that you want to do.
Yeah, it's a whole easy to learn how to master kind of thing, right? You want to give everybody some like easy, understandable entry to the game, and especially I think that's like a good trend in the last few years, where the games try to give good entries to people that don't necessarily go on social media or forums or YouTube or Twitch or anything. They just download the game on their phone, their console, their PC, and they play it. They're not gonna give you feedback. They're not gonna look for how something works or whatnot. If it doesn't work, it's like, oh, I guess I play another game, or at that point, maybe I guess I look on YouTube. But that's kind of about it. And yeah, gaming companies try to focus on how to easily keep those players as well, which I think is forgotten a lot, especially in Illuvium, right? Where like the super active players always are like, we should do this and that and this and all these ideas. And I think a lot of the ones that are like the more casual, the viewers, they don't engage or talk. You should not forget about them.
Yeah. All the feedback we get right now is from intermediate players or expert players. We don't really get feedback from new players. They either stop and don't tell the community why they stopped, or they play and don't really give feedback about it and just are happy with it. Like it's very black and white. I feel like for beginner players, they either don't like it and leave, or they like it and just play but don't really put their input in it too much.
Yeah, I think so as well. Especially when it's beta state games, right? Because there's no big tutorial and maybe you don't understand how some of the affinities of things in Arena work. I think it took me forever to understand that if my unit is like a Colossus, for example, so 2 Bulwark, that it doesn't get the basic Bulwark buff. Like like my intuitive idea was it gets like both. It took me a while to realize, oh wait, that's not true.
Yeah, that it gets it on like extra to that.
Yeah.
It was the same for me with Granite, where you still get like the resistances to resolve, but you get less than if it would have been an Earth unit. I thought it, like I wouldn't think that the Earth is actually gets stronger defensive stats than the Granite, which is kind of the next level. But it's because you have the secondary Granite effect where it gets unvulnerable. So it was nerfed with that.
But that is getting changed, right? We felt a lot of ideas on how they want to, like, I don't know, make it more intuitive and user friendly and so on. So that's already a great thing, right? And now maybe we could have given feedback to that earlier or something like that, right? That's probably what things like Game Council kind of come in, of like being early to give some feedback on, yeah, this is probably going to work. It's probably going to be good. Or maybe this is going to be unintuitive, because if we didn't see it, then like I can't expect the average person just randomly downloading a game to see it.
Yeah, for sure. There's a big change coming for the affinities, where the composite affinities don't give the basic affinities anymore. So a Granite won't give you 2 stacks of Earth, and it's going to be way harder to hit those 9 Earth thresholds or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting overall, right? Because it gives you essentially more variety in how you want to do things. It makes the low-cost units more interesting because they have this flat Earth trade, right? And then maybe investing in a bunch of small ones like Flish, Stokas, whatever, only cost 25 tier 0s. Definitely makes those way more viable, and a lot of endgame content as well.
Yeah,
like that idea, at least in theory. Yeah, and I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and it's going to be a better overview for beginners as well, to really see, I put a Granite and now I get a Granite buff. It doesn't get like 5 other different affinities with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's good that it's Martini. He joins a lot the Discord and talks about stuff that's going to be changed. Like, he's a bit more transparent, because I think he still feels his time from when he didn't have this information.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see he's sharing a lot.
Yeah. Coming back a bit to League, what do you think about stuff like this, like suggested jungle pathing and so on? Because when I first saw it, I was like, oh no, this is getting too much, too easy. They're like trying to push me a bit to one thing. I was like,
they show you that they show you which jungle camp you should do next?
Yeah, it's like a highlight. It's like a big yellow dot on you should start here, and then you should go there next, and then there next, and so on. What do you think about it? Is that like pushing players too much in one direction, or is it still like good help for beginners, I guess, because you can turn it off, obviously, if you want to?
Yeah, it's kind of half-half. When it came out, I was confused, and because it was highlighted, I felt like I have to do this, and I get a bonus if I follow the guide, and if I don't, I'm getting punished. So this was, I think, not so good that they didn't make it clear that this is just a suggestion and not the way you have to go. But I think in general, jungle is really hard to get into, especially because there's so much things you do different. On the lane, you just kill the creeps, but in the jungle there is so many different possibilities. So I like that they try to help people find their way in the jungle. I always had to watch videos to get informed on that, but I think this is not really good yet.
Yeah,
Should be maybe something more interactive where you can choose a path, like you get a few choices where you could go, and then you choose one, and then the guiding system leads you that way that you chose.
yeah. I mean, that's to some extent where AI and learning whatever are probably good options, right? Where it's like, oh,
That would be great.
you can choose the full clear jungle path, the safe one, or the aggressive counter jungle, or the aggressive invading, trying to find where the other guy is, and you can definitely have a lot more guiding stuff. But that guy gets even more to the point of like super aggressively telling people what to do, right? And they play the game less and less. I think it makes sense, right? Like you said, if you jungled, you always looked up a YouTube video. Not everybody is gonna be looking up a YouTube video, right? You're just gonna be like, what do I do? Okay, I just do something, right? Whatever. So it's probably like it's a step in the same direction that all of those games are taking, where they want to make the games friendly for the people that are not engaging in social media, not engaging in YouTube, not watching the Twitch streamer tell them what to do and so on. So I think that's like the one big trend I see in the last few years for sure.
Yeah. And it's nice to see, because if you want to do the research, you can still jump on YouTube and everything and get a little bit more out of it. But like you said, a lot of people don't want that. They want to jump in the game and want to play it and don't have to do anything extra.
Oh, 100%.
So it's good to cater to those people,
it's
to more casual
definitely
players.
better to just look up something on YouTube, right? Then you get more than the most basic standard thing that probably every second game you play is theoretically not optimal, right? Especially in jungle. Like there's like do you jungle towards top? Do you jungle like to which side of the map do you want to play towards? Which just depends on understanding your teammates. Like, are they gonna win their side? Are they gonna lose? Are they gonna need help? Can you fight the other guy and so on? There's so much knowledge that goes into that this is probably like a small tip towards making it easier for people, but it's definitely the ceiling and how much you can do right and wrong is still really, really high.
Yeah. I really like your idea of like AI assisted jungle pathing, where I imagine like the AI is watching how you play and what you're doing, and then it calculates the best moves where you could go forward. But then again, it would be could also be very bad to
it's more like
feel like you're just running behind.
It's more like an add-on in World of Warcraft then, right? Which League of Legends hasn't really done or allowed. They don't want that stuff.
Yeah, they only have like overlays and stuff like this, but not really integrated in the game.
Yeah,
I think Illuvium is gonna go a simple route, they said, with like they're gonna have like overlays and third-party softwares, but I don't think we have like add-ons integrated in the game like World of Warcraft anytime soon.
Yeah, World of Warcraft is pretty unique with that, but it's also interesting because a lot of the World of Warcraft fights, if you compare the boss fights nowadays, especially the difficult mythic end bosses, to what World of Warcraft was 10, 15 years ago, the boss had like a handful of abilities back then and 1 or 2 phases, and now it's like, I don't know, 5 different platforms of 50 different abilities. It's just because those add-ons exist, they can make those fights so much more difficult. So it's pretty interesting how that evolved.
And it's really cool because everything that Warcraft like that the UI would need improving, instead of they having to do it, the community just kind of design an add-on and really customize the game so everybody can have for them the perfect game if they find the right add-ons to do it. I think they used a lot in the newer versions of World of Warcraft, a lot of the stuff that was done by add-ons before is now implemented in the game. So they just picked out the best add-ons and kind of implemented them themselves. So that's pretty good. Pretty
Yeah,
smart.
that's like really good customer research and taking in feedback, right? It's just what did like if we gave people the freedom to make changes, what did they make? What did they use, right? I think that's really really
Yeah,
good. That's also
I think
something that.
history.
Oh, sorry.
No, no,
I
you
was
go.
like, it's the way that companies take feedback is also evolving in a very positive way. I feel like that's one of the things that in the Honkai Star Rail game that I started playing 2 weeks ago really really surprised me. Where a lot of the times in like a story quest or in a dialogue where you have a few options, what are you gonna say, right? It's an RPG game, so you can like kind of alter the dialogues a bit and so on. Was more or less customer feedback and research because they ask you about I don't know, what if we would make a movie? How would you like that? Would you how I don't know what like the storyline? Would you want it to be like this or like this? Would you focus more on this, or was this puzzle in the game? There's like a club that made those puzzles in the games, like story wise, and it's like they're asking you questions. Oh, how do you want us to change this? Oh, okay, then we have this new thing here. You can try that out, and I don't know, various things like that where you can through the dialogue choices, because in the game before that they had, I was like, okay, that actually is super meaningless. I just click through it, whatever. But here, they actually changed the dialogues a bit, and I feel like that they're looking for a lot of feedback with that. It's kind of cool. Like even every day you get like a phone message from somebody, and it's just like a random dialogue with one of the in-game characters, essentially for maybe 30 seconds or so. But I think they get a lot of valuable insights that way more people answer than before. Because
That's so cool. So,
yeah,
so there's like a feedback system integrated into the gameplay,
yeah. I think that's. I
basically.
haven't seen that before. Probably somebody did it before. Maybe not. But I think that's really, really genius, and that's
Yeah,
easy to go for Illuvium as well, because you can like Mozart can ask you, I don't know, what should I improve at, or did I help you out here? What do you want me to do? Or the guy that's next to the forge or the data bank or whatever can be like, yo, I made this new thing for you. Give me feedback. And then you come back and it's like, oh, did you like it? Did it help you? And like all those things. I think that's pretty easy to implement as long as you have NPCs and story.
yeah, that's great. That's really genius, and it makes it really immersive. Because people, if they have to go to like a support page and put their feedback in and stuff, it feels like it's so disconnected, and you feel like it's not gonna be heard anyway or whatever. But if you really do it in the story in the game, especially with like Mozart, like you said, that's a really good chance to have those interactions. That should be implemented, because that's what we need. We need the feedback from the player while they're playing. Is, did you like this? Did you not like
Yeah.
this? We need this direct personal input from people, and the easier it is for them to give it, the better.
Yeah, for sure. It's a different feeling as well compared to I don't know, usually you get like, here's a survey, please fill out the survey, and we give you some in-game currency in like the usual games or something like that. It's like, are you really gonna fill out that? Are you just gonna click through it, maybe not even reading the questions and everything? But if it's a dialogue in the game, hey, you don't even know that it's a survey kind of thing going
Yeah,
into it, and it's somewhat like storyline allocated as well. So you do care about what do they say. Maybe it's relevant, right? So yeah, I
yeah,
think that was like really really positive surprise to me.
yeah. That's great. That's a really cool idea they had there. Probably somebody did it before, but
Yeah,
they
probably.
probably did it better. Yeah, Mozart, I feel like there is a lot of possibilities where you can bring in stuff that can be annoying in other cases, but if you have like an interaction with Mozart, it can be fun or a normal gameplay. For example, when we talk about botting, uh,
Mm,
and we have like, for example, if you want to reduce bots or like just like bring down the percentage of bots, you can bring in more capture stuff, and it would be very unnatural to always do this like sliding puzzles and stuff. But if you somehow make it a game with Mozart where you have to click, I don't know, some rocks or whatever in his inventory to force something or whatever it is, I think we could use Mozart there a little bit better. But botting is a heated topic, I know.
yeah, I mean, spotting is it's always like good to try and reduce the amount of it, obviously, but it's difficult to make a system that would only work if bots are eliminated, because that's like a really really big single point of failure then. But yeah, the Mozart and rock farming and stuff, right? You can just like currently we just click scan and then we click mine. I mean, maybe in the future we scan and then we see the rock and we see the different parts of it somewhere. There's a question mark here, there's this one here, there's a shard here, and you can just actually click, okay, go for this, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a little more effort, but you also essentially, I don't know, get more specific loot, more personalized loot. So it adds another like skill element as well, where you have to choose what do you want to go for and so on.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way of doing that.
You dive like in the perspective of Mozart. You put on your neural link or something, and then you're Mozart in front of the rock, and digging through it and picking the things or whatever it is. Like, of course, that's way in the future, but it's a nice way to utilize Mozart. I think there's a lot of potential with him.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's just implementing these like small mini-ish games where you can give players the chance to skip it, right? It's just like, oh, just mine everything or mine at a random thing if you click a button, if you don't want to optimize those. But if you want to optimize it, you can do slightly more, right? It's also a good thing of including more ways that people want to play those games as well, right? It's like somebody that wants to get every single last percentage point and optimize everything, or even just somebody that spends a lot of money. It's like, I'm just gonna like auto click through. I'm just gonna be fast. And somebody else that's like, okay, I have this much and I want to get this, so I better optimize everything. I'm gonna watch like 5 YouTube videos explaining me how to do this, and then I'm gonna go in there with my plan and I'm gonna execute my plan and not just like click random stuff. So I think that's good.
We're in a time of sweaty min-maxers. Everybody's, many people, most of them are trying to really get the last little percentage to really be the most efficient. I think Illuvium is definitely a good game to cater towards sweaty min-maxers. Because we have so much transparency and so much other players who can support them and give them info. And like our content creators, we have so many. I've been researching other games like Gods Unchained and Big Time or whatever it is, and trying to find like creators, like individual creators. Like we have a lot in Illuvium. Couldn't find any. It was not even half of what we got. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, Illuvium is already kind of this like cult brand status where a lot of people are maybe not even too interested in Web3 in general, but they're interested in Illuvium because Illuvium is special. It looks different. It seems like way higher potential. It seems more polished, and I don't know, the community is really, really engaging. A lot of people feel like they find like a home of people they want to hang out with and do things with. It's not only just this one game, right? Discord has many different channels and a lot of people are really active. It's pretty cool. Like Illuvium is like in a really, really good path, I think.
Yeah, and there's a reason why we are here, right? We had thousands of other games and projects that we could join, but we really got hooked to this one, and there's a lot of good reasons for it. For me, at first, it was a bit hard to really connect with the community. I think because I'm just not used to that, to like connect to like social media groups and stuff, to be like in this Discord world and everything. But once you dive a little bit more into it, it's amazing of all the individuals you meet, and it's really cool place.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of same for me. At the time I got more active doing anything on Discord was when private beta, the second arena beta came out, and everybody was just hanging out on voice call, streaming their game every day, looking how far you can get and so on. That was where I was like, this is I can like talk with people. I'm getting to the highest wave every day. It's like interesting. People want to watch this and so on. That was the time where I got a bit more engaged.
Yeah, that was the best times in the Discord. Every time there was like a launch or something, there's just 25 people hanging in there, 12 people streaming, and everybody talking about the game. That's really nice. Talking about the social aspects, what do you think how we can because we pulled up League of Legends earlier, and it can be a very toxic place. How do you think we could reduce toxic player base and toxic behavior in Illuvium? Because that's what I'm thinking about a lot. Because if I can pull up League of Legends right here again, they just did a new feature where you click tab and you have mute self, which is amazing to just stop yourself from typing out everything you think about, and also mute all communications. Right now it's muted because I usually do that to just not be able to be get any bad input from. Because usually it's just something goes wrong and people type out curses and really just try to blame others and that's the worst part I think about this game. So I like that they improved this, that you can block communication and stuff to just play your own game.
I guess the big change about that, right? Because you could always mute yourself, but if you click the new thing, it like sends a message in chat. This person has muted everybody else, right? So now somebody else that might be spamming 100 words at you in a minute is going to be like, oh, the guy's not going to read it anyway, so I don't have to write it. But if you just mute them, they don't know that they're muted, right? So they're going to keep spamming a bunch of words. So that's, I think that's like a good part of that change. I feel like in general, you want to have social interactions, right? But then you're going to have some negative social interactions as well. And that's always the trade-off, right? Either you have no interactions or you have the risk of negative ones as well. And League of Legends, for me, over the 15 years and Dota, I guess Dota, they care less about language in general. But in League, they have tried so many things of getting AI or auto commands, whatever, like filtering the chat and filtering everything mean and evil. People just find new ways of bypassing that by just using other words or making up new words or. So that never, like, that's like the same thing with the bots. The company is always one step behind because they always have to react to the new thing that somebody comes up with.
Yeah.
I think if you just allow chatting, you got to accept that stuff, right? So I was more thinking of maybe you could choose, maybe somebody can like choose, okay, do you want to live in the world where people flame each other in chat because you like to banter with other people and whatnot? Or do you want to live in the, I don't know, PG-6 or so? What's the US term?
Child-friendly.
Like child-friendly, yeah. Whatever the US age rating term there is, right? But yeah, if you can like pre-choose that, and it's like, how many people are actually gonna be like, oh yeah, I want to offend someone that's just like a casual gamer here. It's like it doesn't happen that often. That's not actually a thing. But people that want to banter with each other can, and they probably enjoy it more to like banter back and forth with someone compared to the other guy's just gonna mute you and move on with their life, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like the only thing that I can come up with where you can maybe filter those groups a little bit. But yeah, having like chat and friendless interactions in general is probably good.
Yeah. It probably makes sense to have like an option to like mute chat or to not get like direct messages from any people and just be able to interact with emojis and stuff like this. I guess you can still get kind of toxic with emojis, like if you spam the wrong ones and stuff, but especially
in Hearthstone, they removed one of the not emojis, but like these, I don't know, emote like messages like hello and sorry and surprise or something like that. I think it was sorry that they removed because too many people felt offended or whatever if the other guy was like had the game won and just let the turn timer run out and just kept spamming sorry or something like that. So they actively removed that because I don't know, whatever. Then people just spam like a different one and do the same thing. So I don't think it actually did anything. But
yeah. I remember that like people do like a good move and then they say sorry. It's like, sorry, I just wrecked you. I can see that. What you said about the League of Legends chat, that, or in general, that we or the studios can more be reactive instead of proactive. They're always behind. I think it's the same like we said earlier with the capture with botting. It's just it reduces it, like it lowers the percentage, but it cannot get rid of it. Like right now, they invented a new feature which caught me off guard a few times, even though I knew it after the first time. When you say like a bad word, if it's really bad, you just get muted right away in chat, and you're not allowed to chat anymore this game. And it shows like a chat message in the chat for the others. This player just said something bad. Now he cannot chat anymore. I think it's this is a nice way to just like have a direct punishment and show it, like make a show out of it. This guy is now out of the communication because he said something bad, and not to have like, I don't know, 5 games later or 2 days later, you get like chat banned for something that you did 5 days ago, which you can't even remember. Like it's like the dog when you have to put him into his nose into the piss right away and not wait to punish him, because then it's not gonna be really connected with the punishment, the action.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true point. I remember that system when it came out. I saw some people making clips of as I was like, you could like say F your dad, F your brother, F your sister. Then if somebody said like F your mom, it was like, oh, now it's banned. So that was over the line, but the sister was okay, you know. So
it's hard to really draw the line, especially when people get creative.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like it's like pretty funny, but it's really difficult to like pull it off, right? But yeah, you can just kill like the really, really obvious words that probably would get a lot of attention as well, because the companies don't want that, right? The companies don't want the kind of negative attention of, people can say bad shit in our games and not get banned for whatever. But if people have to be very, very creative, the company can be like, oh yeah, we will fix it in the future. But man, we did not think like some person like that would think, so we couldn't come up with the mean stuff that they are coming up with and whatever. You can always kind of picture yourself in a good way that way. Another cool thing, we talked about like friendless and social things, because Illuvium is not that much of a multiplayer game like League of Legends, right? There's also one thing in the new game that I played where you can essentially, it's like a turn-based combat game, and you can choose one like character that you attach to your profile, and somebody in your friend list can, when they do some of the in-game content, choose to use your character and their team to help them do the stuff. And then you get like some, I don't know, in-game currency or whatever bonus if your friends actually use your character as like a help. So that that definitely encourages people to maybe find friend groups and be like, okay, everybody uses everybody else's character once a day, and then we get all the bonus things. And it definitely is just like a positive way of keeping interaction and so on. So I wonder if depending on how Illuvium is going to be set up and whatnot, because they said we're going to have chats and like guilds and group channels and things like that. If something like that is also somewhat, I don't know, possible to do, it's like somebody else borrowing a Mozart skin or I don't know, whatever, right? But yeah, I wonder if that's possible in a way to set up. That would be cool. It's like a positive single player social aspect.
Yeah. It's again like easy to play aspects of the very hard concept of a social construct in a single player game, where you can just like invite somebody on your like on your base or stuff like this to just like have some interaction with your friends. Otherwise, it's, for me, like I need online, I need PvP, I need other players in games. So I'm thinking a lot about how Illuvium could incorporate that and find like easy solutions to have somewhat of a multiplayer feeling to some things. I've checked out Illuvium. It's a new project coming out where they Web3 game auto battler, and they have 3 versus 3 battles. So that's what they focus on. I don't think we will get that very soon, but I think in the future, like a 2 versus 2 mode and stuff like this, or even just like giving other people's your skin or what you said, could be really nice.
Yeah, or like borrowing in Illuvia, right? Like that could also just be a thing. It's like, oh, you don't have a Titan ore, but you want to have it for the overworld farming you do, well, you can borrow mine or whatever for this run.
Yeah. Would be nice if it was integrated in Illuvium stuff that we have seen in other Web3 games, where it's like with scholarships and stuff like this. Would be nice to have like a landing feature where you can give like a deck to a friend and stuff like this to help them jump into the game and have a bit of more cooperation.
I mean, if you want to help a friend, right, you can essentially, it's like a friend that you trust, right? You can just send them things and they can send it back eventually as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that requires trust again.
That's how good of a friend.
It's like, well, smart contracts definitely will be able to allow us to do those things trustless as well. Which I think that's another big technical advantage of Web3. You can just implement a bunch of things trustless in the game. You don't require on any of those like failure points or whatever, nothing bad can happen. Allows a lot more options, a lot more trading, and so on with people. That's really good.
I think that's another thing that we could talk about, which would be nice to, I would be interested in your opinion on it. How would you like Illuvium to have like tournaments? Would there be some improvement from Web2 structures of tournaments, like competitive esport tournaments?
The way that esport is in the reality, the people that get to the big tournaments, that path is really difficult, and it's usually very unlikely that someone that's not top tier gets there by being lucky, because you have to be lucky so many times in a row to get there. But then that big event at the end, or I don't know, the like semi big one before that, you just play very few games in the end. And at that point, it's like, yeah, sometimes a coin flip is worth a whole lot of fame and money, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose it. And so I think that the thing that people like, especially like also me personally, my setting in Hearthstone, I could give myself a lot of chances of having those big important things that are maybe not a coin flip, but a 60-40 in my favor. But I mean, 60-40, if it's a 1, 2, 3 times happening, you can lose that. And keep losing it. It's like not unrealistic to happen. So yeah, getting into that position consistently possible, but that position itself, I don't know, can go either way. So I'm not really sure if there's like a better way of doing that. You can make systems more competitive, but oftentimes you lose like some viewership parts to it because the games feel less important. There's less high stakes on the line, or simply you cannot have the tournament go on forever, and so on and so on. So yeah, but like all of those things we kind of can evaluate once we see the PvP loop, and we can like figure out some ideas on what to do and what not.
Yeah, I can see there is like a conflict between the viewers who want to see that one big game where the underdog could take it because it's just super small sample size, and the pro player who actually strives to be like 51%, over 51%, who is like just trying to get the little edge, and then in 3 games you cannot see the little edge. It comes down to more coin flips. I think in what I would think about where they have a little bit of a bigger sample size is games like Super Smash Brothers, where they actually play like I don't know, or like Valorant and CS:GO, where they actually play like 21 rounds and stuff like this, or best of 7, best of 9, and stuff like this, compared to like a best of 5 in League of Legends, or I don't know how it was in Hearthstone. Probably.
Hearthstone had many different formats, ranging from like best of 3 to best of 7s, and then the main thing in like a Hearthstone game was more like the preparation aspect as well. So like how, like what strategies do you actually bring, right? And then obviously if you go in a tournament, there's 50% playing this, 20% this, 15 this. Like it matters who you face, it matters what you expected, and so on. So yeah, a lot of the strategy stuff came in there. It's similar to like drafting in League of Legends, right? You go into the draft with a plan, and maybe the plan works out. Maybe the other team had a way to beat your plan, right? Maybe you thought you banned somebody out, and then they have a really good pocket pick against it, and so on. So yeah, I think all of that is really good strategy-ish stuff. But it also kind of, that's the way that I see it as somebody that competed in those scenarios. I'm like, it's just sometimes you can expect as much as you want, and then the other guy expects as much as you want. You kind of go this back and forth. I'm gonna do this, then the other guy's gonna do this, then I know he's gonna do this, and then this, and so at one point you just go to the point of like you cannot 100% predict it. You can just like give it some variable, maybe it's 60%, maybe it's just a 50-50, I don't know. And then like that's how I see it, as like, well, I cannot guarantee something. It's just, it can go one or the other way. It's close to a coin flip sometimes because you cannot predict human people 100%. And yeah, but I also don't mind that too much, even in the long term. I mean, I think that in my career, I've lost more of those like coin flips than I won them, which obviously sucks, even though I felt I was favored in more than half of them. But esports is still just like a marketing tool for the viewers, essentially. And if there are no viewers, then it's meaningless. You can have the most competitive game, but it's boring to watch, and then it is meaningless, essentially. So you kind of gotta live with it to some extent, and it's just about risk management. So the biggest thing that somebody can change to make it more competitive is just increasing the sample size, right? It would be having not one really, really big tournament, but like 10 smaller ones or things like that. So like, but it's a little bit less cool, right? But you could, instead of having one world championship, you have one tournament every month, and then whoever has the most points at the end of the year, the best placements or most prize money earned or whatever metric you want to choose, that's like the world champion without winning this one single event, right?
But if you think about it,
tremendously more competitive, but would it look better? I don't know.
Yeah. If you think about like those 10 tournaments in 1 year, there has to be like the finals at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
right.
so
it's like the top 8 qualify, the top 8 play a few games to decide it. It's like, but that's like that would be a good system though, I think, in general, because no matter who out of the 8 wins would be tremendously successful and accomplished, right? So it wouldn't be that someone just gets like lucky in one tournament and gets there. Like that, I think never happened in Hearthstone as well. I wanna. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say never, but I cannot recall a single time. It probably happened at one point that someone just kept getting lucky, whatever. But very, very rare to maybe never happened occasion. It's like this tournament qualify, next, and at some point the big thing, right? I mean, that's generally a good setup and whatever. You can adjust the prize money structure, I guess. That's the other thing you can do, because maybe I think I recently looked at something like chess, for example. Chess had more than 50% of the prize money going to the first place in the World Championship. It was like 2 million prize money total, and 1.1 would go to the winner. I hope I'm quoting this right. You can like flatten that out. You can be like, the winner gets 20, the second 15, then 10, 10, and then like 8, and then 5 or something, right? You can, if you flatten that out, then the impact of those few games matters more for the glory and the title than actually for people to be able to make a living out of it, right? They don't have to gamble, can I make a living out of this? Which, if they don't have to gamble on that, you probably attract more people that are very competitive and interested in it.
That makes a lot of sense to like have those 10 tournaments or something, which determines the top 10 players, and all those top 10 players are getting recognized as such, and or be it top 5 or whatever it is, and they already get a good prize money, and then the finals is just for the show more or less, but it's not like the first gets 1 million and the second gets 100,000.
I
think that sounds good. I think a good analogy to what you said is real life sports, and when you compare it to soccer or football, soccer, and like skiing or something. Because in skiing, it's all about those World Cup points. You have every week you have another World Cup, and those events are like super important. When they win, they celebrate like they win a lot, because all those points they get through those World Cups will count towards the final ranking. There's not like one final which determines the winner. Whereas in football, you have like the World Championship, everybody qualifies, and then you have 1 or 2 games which determine if you keep on going.
Yeah, there's like the pseudo criticism that people bring towards a lot of esport titles or the strategy games. Because in strategy games, it's like pretty obvious stuff where it's like a coin flip or a dice roll essentially. And then you say the soccer world championship or football, whatever you call it in the world, you kind of like gamble which group you get even, right? Like it's a pretty big deal. Who are your enemies at the beginning, and then in the quarterfinals, and like how far do you get based on that? That is a pretty big gamble, and you cannot really do anything about it. That's just how it is, and that's also something that makes sports interesting, because you can see upsets. You can see somebody make it further than they usually would. You can say somebody like get kicked out early that usually would be really far. And that's good stuff. I mean, we don't, if everything is like fixed and known, it's boring. Like we don't want to watch that then.
Yeah, definitely. It has to be part of to make it entertaining, to have some level of uncertainty and coin flip and yeah.
Yeah, or just, I don't know, somebody has like a really good day in the sports game, just hits every shot or every throw in basketball or whatever, makes the craziest things. Like it can just happen, right? And like from me competing, that's also like where I would debate or discuss or argue with people to some extent, where I'm like, I don't know, just like having a really perfect day is not 100% skill. It's also just like a bit to the luck side of like, I don't know, you just like made all the right calls that day. You just, I don't know, had a good sleep, maybe ate some good food, maybe were like on top of your mind and whatnot. And some other day you weren't. It's like, does that really reflect your overall skill and capabilities? Not really. It's just like a really good or a really bad day. So I think that's also to some extent like what people would commonly be referring to as like lucky or unlucky. But then you have the if you want to like, you can frame it in a negative say as well. It's like, it's in real life sports, it's only ever perfect skill, and in this card game, it's the luck aspect. Which I'm like, I don't know, man. I've also played sports. I've had really good games in basketball where I hit everything. I've had bad games where I didn't do so well, and I missed like a lot of shots. I'm like,
it
is
sure.
what it is.
I think it's not so much luck as it is just another skill of like having like a really good routine that you know you're gonna have a very good day afterwards. Like to be very good at managing your life outside your sport or your game or whatever to then maximize your efficiency in the game. That's it's not your gaming skill. It's just your like how good can you prepare your mindset for this? How good can you prepare your body for this? Like can you actively get good sleep, or is it just a coin flip if you go to bed if it's going to be a good night or not?
Yeah. It's like we human beings just try to give ourselves the best chance for something to happen that we want to happen, right? But we can't really guarantee it. Like, I don't know, you could just get a cold. Oh, you can eat healthy, live healthy, not do anything that would make it more likely. But hey, people still get a cold, right? It's just we just give ourselves the best chances, mathematically speaking, and that's how we get there. It's like, you learn for a test at school or uni. You can probably not guarantee to get 100%, right? There could always be some question that you didn't foresee. Maybe you learned everything, but then the guy asks you something that's like semi-related only, and you have to on the spot think of an answer. It's like, oh, well, I can't. Sometimes you can. It's like that's like how I view those things, and that's also where I like if I talk about those topics, a lot of disagreements with people because they view it differently, essentially.
We've been talking now about like some pro gaming aspects and tournaments and stuff, but I think one of the most important topics is probably talking about beginners and how to make it beginner friendly.
Yeah.
What would you think would be a good way to do that?
I mean, it's something like League of Legends, right? Like a mobile game. It's somewhat easy to highlight because you have some basic skills about the game. It's like everybody can just like go to their lane and then do the stuff there. But then there comes some understanding of what are the other people doing right now, and like understanding, okay, you're the top laner, and it's like, okay, the other jungler is going to be here at minute 310 to 325. There's like the perfect opportunity for the guy to come and try to kill me. So at that time, maybe I shouldn't risk it. And I should be more defensive. That's like something that knowledge-wise you have to learn, has nothing to do with knowing the abilities of your characters and so on. And then like all these time windows of like, the other guy is missing from the map there. Okay, the support can come up here, or the mid laner has a 20-second window to do this now, or my team wants to play for this objective, so I can 20-second window, I can go there and help. Like all those things, that's like knowledge-based stuff. That's not really character-based stuff. Then a lot
like
of characters
macro
have
gameplay.
Yeah. Then characters have like specific skill sets you have to learn, right? You play Riven. Riven has a lot of animation cancels and combos you want to know and learn. And something else is just a overall game knowledge and understanding. It has no these like specific things you have to go to the practice tool and learn. I think that's kind of the easy to learn how to master part in that game, right?
Yeah, when you talk about this stuff, I realize how not beginner friendly League of Legends is, because nobody teaches. Like everybody in there, they getting ganked, and they're like, "Wow, it's not my fault. My jungler wasn't here or stuff, or my war was." Like they don't think about, hey, the jungler could be here now because of the time that it takes him to clear this stuff. So like, I think they have done a really poor job of educating macro gameplay of how to like have a basic overview what's going on in the whole game and not just on your lane. And then we come to the next point, which is like 150 different champions which you would have to learn when you start out. I don't know how hard.
I think that part is like fair enough though, right? Because the game came out with 40, and then obviously they have to add more characters and content to the game. So either they have to rotate some out, which kind of sucks. You don't want to do that. So they kind of just keep adding to it. That's like fair enough. It's just an old game that has a lot of characters and so on.
At this point, I feel like they could just keep reworking, and they would never run out of old champs. They would need to rework.
Yeah.
But then again, it's good marketing to bring in new champions.
Sure. I mean, it clears out in-game currency as well. People have to buy them and so on. So that's not bad. I guess on the like learning part, that's like one of my big things if it comes to how do you help people to get into games and to master games, is I don't like lowering the ceiling. I don't like making it like dumbing it down more and more. I would prefer to just implement better forms of tutorials or guides, but like not on a way of like, just point people to YouTube or Twitch or whatever. No, in the game, in the client, you can make so many helpful things there. In like a League of Legends, like you said, the people are like, oh, I never knew that a jungler clears all their 6 camps and that is around like 310 to 330, and then they might come to my side of the map. You can just implement a loading screen tip that literally says, if your opposing jungler is full clearing, they're gonna be around there like 3 minutes to 330, because that's when they want to fight for the neutral camp in the middle or something, right?
Yeah.
Or it takes you 25 seconds from base to the lane for the average movement speed champion or something. Like those sort of things somebody reads and it's like, oh, okay, wow, that's really helpful to know. And you can just implement those things in the game. I think that's really not too difficult to do. And it would tremendously help people, for sure.
Yeah, I'm fully on your side with don't dumb it down, because that's not going to help anybody. Like if you make the general game dumb, the beginners are still going to have a hard time if you don't make the tutorials for them, even if it's like super easy stuff. And then the advanced people who are in the game, they're just going to lose interest, because without a high skill ceiling, there is no like long-term retention for people. Like this annoyed me a lot with World of Warcraft that I've been playing pretty much all my life. And at one point, or each add-on, they started dumbing it down. And suddenly, like a hunter had to have ammunition for his gun. He had to buy bullets and bring them. And at one point, you just had to buy one bullet. You put it on your gun, and that was it. That was like unlimited ammunition. And just stuff like this, who doesn't really make sense, who just try to make it super, super easy. And yeah, I don't like that either. That's not... You got to be easy to play, hard to master. That's really... it's easy to say this phrase, but it's one of the most important things, and probably one of the hardest things to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can still make those things user-friendly. Like you said, you have to buy the ammunition and whatnot. I mean, you can just click on it, and then it shows you like a menu. You can buy this here or craft this here. You click on the thing again, and then it shows you like the next teleport, or there's like a direct portal to it, or something like that. Or maybe you have a item with you that you always have because you're a hunter, and you can just craft it, or you can use like coins to make those bullets. It's like it's an RPG game. It doesn't have to make like you can come up with some solution to it, but you can make it just very user friendly. I think that's what they try to make it more user friendly, and then they just remove the thing at all, right? Which is the thing of like, hey, maybe you have better solutions to it.
Yeah, or like, I guess in the end you could also just try to find the real problem with it. Like the problem is not that people have to buy bullets. The problem is when they are in a raid and suddenly run out of bullets because they forgot to buy them. And I guess making like notifications or some way to remind you that you're low on bullets, that would be probably a better way than just making one bullet infinite and do it that way.
Yeah, like a pet or a mount that you can summon where you can buy them from, right? I mean, this later when I played WoW, there were mounts or things you could summon where you could repair or sell, or like, I don't know, buy some dusts, or like these things that maybe somebody forgot to buy some. I don't remember the right word, was like dust or glyph where you could change a talent with, and sometimes you had to change a talent for a new boss fight. You forgot you could buy it there or something like that. It was definitely helpful. I don't know, maybe it exists nowadays, but something that can access the auction house even, right? So that you can just implement things that kind of make sense, and I don't know, you keep like all those like bunch of mechanics in the game that are, if you just immediately look at it, it's pretty confusing. But if you slowly go through a tutorial and whatnot, people learn it, and then they feel attached to it because they have sunken so much knowledge into this. They feel like such an expert about this. They want to keep playing the thing they're an expert in, right?
Yeah.
It's
they get like socially, not socially. They get invested with the thing they learned. It's now my skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny that in TFT, for example, because that's one of the leading auto battlers out there, there's zero tutorial. I think there's not a single thing that they tell you what to do.
I think there's like a little bit of like you can level here. It costs you like one thing. Like this is where you level. This is where you refresh the shops and so on. But yeah, it's a very little. I think like less than a year ago, I made like some extra accounts and played them. I think there's pretty much no tutorial in it. I think TFT is incredibly beginner unfriendly.
Yeah,
it's that's like the biggest. I think TFT has two issues. One is this incredibly beginner unfriendly part where getting into it or getting to a point where you understand kind of what is going on and kind of what you're supposed to be doing, you have to go to YouTube or Twitch or something. The game itself and just playing the game will not remotely be. You will never get there. It's pretty much impossible. You need other people to help you, and the in-game client doesn't help you at all with that. And the second thing that they are kind of running into right now is that they are pretty limited in the design space things that they have, which is the same thing Hearthstone ran into. Hearthstone was like from like player base and revenue and everything, it kind of went like a bell curve. It was good, then it took off, was really crazy, and then it kind of peaked off, and then it fell down, and it started falling down more and more around the time where they kind of just copied old strategies and they made them a little different. So the last time there was a spam a bunch of creatures and then buff all of them theme. The card that buffed them was a 2-cost card and gave +2/+1 to everything. And now it's a 1-cost card that gives +1/+1. It's kind of the same thing.
And probably the player base
like the fifth time, right? Yeah.
And probably the player base had the same bell curve as the design. As soon as the design fell off, probably the player base fell off with it too.
There are like a lot of other things that kind of came around the same time, like the lawsuits against Blizzard, bad press against Blizzard, other games coming
really
out.
Care so much about like the bad press stuff.
I mean, some probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not the majority, definitely not, but some probably for sure. And then there was like more competitors in general. So it's like a bunch of things that came together, but this was like one of the things where they kind of just bottlenecked themselves and they couldn't like do new things. And then the one new thing they did was Illidan, like releasing a new class in the game, like something completely new, never seen before in the game. And like the Google Trend searches, the YouTube, the player base, everything skyrocketed to unseen before. And then they kind of screwed up again by making it unplayable, which was very weird decision from my perspective that I could not understand, and nobody could explain me the reasoning behind that. And but then nowadays, if I look back at the game, I haven't even played. Like I quit the last esport tournament I played was a year ago at this point. It's just they're recycling old strategies and just giving them a makeover. And TFT is running into the same thing right now, where they just recycle old ideas and they just give it a makeover. It's like every set there's a trait of like, okay, you put in these units and they buff one unit to be really big. Or you put in these units and they all do a lot of damage, but they're all like gonna die easily and so on. It's like the underlying theme is the same, which makes it for somebody easier to play one and then stay in the game with all the updates that they're making. But it's also a question of like, at which point is it gonna feel all the same and get really boring to people? That's why TFT currently is the biggest strategy game. It took over what Hearthstone used to be. And I don't know if it's going to stay that way, because I'm really wondering, is it going to be a bell curve like in Hearthstone where there's going to be more competitors, more auto battlers coming out, and they bottleneck themselves into it feels boring, so people are even more incentives to jump to the other things? Or will they innovate a bunch of new stuff, right? And that's also where we can look at. It's like if TFT is able to come up with new ideas and whatnot, it's probably some ideas can be copied or implemented, right? Also, like what kind of trend ideas are they following? Because the other games we discussed so far, they all went in a direction where you want to cater to the people that are not vocal in Discord, social media, YouTube. They're not watching Twitch streams. They're not looking at all this third-party stuff. They're not watching some data-driven website. But you want to, those are still your players, and you want to not forget about them, while you still want to do stuff for the people that do watch YouTube and Twitch that is a bit more difficult, so that the whole game doesn't feel super easy for them. Which I'm talking a lot, but can we talk a bit about the game modes in League of Legends? Because I think that's a really, really good one. League of Legends has a lot of different game modes that are essentially for these different areas of players. It's like the super casual player is probably more inclined to play ARIM or some event game mode than the guy that's more competitively oriented and just plays the classic game, right? Things like that.
When we talk about the fall down of Hearthstone, and maybe TFT is gonna go the same route, I think Blizzard has shown that they have trouble really taking in the community sentiment and really making or like pursuing the wishes of the community, which led to a lot of trouble. And I think Riot has been pretty good with being innovative and really also with League of Legends and their other games. They have so many games by now, and they have shown that they can be really proactive with problems and really be very creative and innovative. So I think TFT will still stay around. I think they will find a way. And like you said, like those are troubles that we can run into with Illuvium as well. And it's really good to keep a lookout, because Riot, I think, is a really good development studio in general. And what did you say after? I want to read.
No, I was you essentially want to cater to as many different kind of players on a competitive level, right? Like everybody kind of still loves the one thing that your game is and stands for. Like the people all love the brand of the game, but people go from very casual to super tryhard, right? And to cater to all of that, you kind of implement different game modes, which League of Legends has ARIM. They have event game modes. They have flex ranked queue. They have normal rank queue. Normal games blind pick. Normal games draft pick. They have like all that kind of stuff. Then these like new mobile games or mobile/PC. I mean, phones are pretty insane nowadays. They also all have different kind of end games that are more catered to various different players. It's like the one end game is the super difficult one, and the other end game thing is less difficult. So so you still have something that you can beat that feels rewarding if it's like a single player game, more than a multiplayer game where obviously you beat some other person, you feel good. You lose, you feel bad most of the time. But yeah, even the single player games, they are trying to address more casual and more tryhard players in what they are doing, which is again, it's like kind of the same trend of you want to cater to more people without losing the identity of your game.
Yeah, that's super important. And sometimes it's hard for us as individuals to see the other perspective. Like for me, I live for PvP, and single player games are really usually uninteresting for me if there's not like a strong IP behind it or something that I want to discover there, or if somebody really recommends the game. But then the other day I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, he want to try Arena, and what he thinks is so cool about it, that it's PvE. He doesn't have to play against other players. He really likes the idea of the survival mode, where I'm on the other side. So I think what you said with having many game modes is super important to really, because everybody has different preferences. Some really enjoy PvE to be like chilling and not stressful. Some think if they're not beating a real person on the other side, it doesn't make sense. It's for nothing. And yeah, with League of Legends, they had a lot of good ones. They also had way more, and they canceled a lot of them, which made me really sad, because I was a big fan of 3 versus 3 in League of Legends, and they removed it. And I loved 3 versus 3. There was different maps they had it on, and
I like that one as well.
They also had Dominion, if you can remember that one.
Yeah.
Dominion was amazing. Like there was a fun mode, hide and seek in custom map.
I used to play that with friends.
Yeah, it was so good, man, and now it's gone. Like I'm so heartbroken over this stuff, and I think they reasoned it kind of with it's too much dev work to keep like balancing all those game modes and also like diluting their player base. But I think they have enough money to have enough devs for that, and they have enough players to keep them up. So, one day when I visit Riot, I'm gonna tell them a piece of my mind that they need to bring back Dominion.
Yeah. No, that's like I want to add like two things to those points. One, for the PvE games, I think nowadays we see a lot of PvE games be really successful. There's like the Hogwarts Legacy and things like that as well. Next to Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, all of those games that are single player PvE games, but the social aspect that people have, that's outsourced to social media. It's outsourced to YouTube. It's outsourced to Twitch. Right? People talk about how do I play the game? What is the most optimal way for the fastest, strongest equipment? What is the strongest character or trait or weapon, and so on? So it's like it is like the super casual PvE thing, but you can still compare yourself with others. How fast are you getting to certain points if you choose to, right? The game itself doesn't show you a leaderboard, but somebody can make a website, and that website can have a leaderboard, and everybody that wants to compare with others can go and sign up there, right? So people kind of just outsource that, which is kind of cool. I don't know, Genshin, for example, did that in I don't know, I think it's still up in China, where you could essentially upload your speedruns of the end game. And you could compare who does the end game the fastest, because beating it was, after a certain time, pretty easy. But then it's like, oh, how fast can you beat it? What is the best setup for that? What is the best items for that, and so on? So yeah, that's just essentially just got outsourced to third parties pretty much, because the company didn't want to introduce anxiety to the player base. They wanted to have not have someone play there and be like, oh man, I'm level 15 and this Viper guy, he's level 50 already after only less than 2 weeks.
And plays 250,000 on the leaderboards. Fuck.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, that looks bad. I don't want that, right? So I think that's like a good thing to learn also from those games, and them being pretty much successful. Also, like the YouTube shorts about Harry Potter and Hogwarts, right? That's all did really, really well, also for some of our fellow Illuvium content creators. And I forgot. Oh yeah, the second part of the game modes and the money the companies have. That's just the issue of like more or less publicly traded company, and why I think Illuvium Council, especially Game Council, is pretty helpful, right? Because for the not only publicly traded company, but for a company period, for somebody to make a decision that is different to what was done before, it's like, well, if it doesn't make more revenue the next quarter or the next 2 quarters, maybe you probably get fired. Like that's just the thing. But if you make the decision that's like the safe one, oh, you're fine. It's like you invest, you're an investment company, you buy Apple stock. Apple's is a big, good company. Nobody's going to criticize you. Why did you buy Apple or Nvidia or something? But you buy some smaller cap things and they do really well. Nice, you get promoted. They don't do well, you get fired. It's like you take on a lot more risks. It's the same with those companies and the revenue that's just coming in. Like if you make a new feature, you make something new, it doesn't look good. That's bad. That's bad for your job. Or the call just never gets made because it's like, well, I don't know, we invest 100 million to maintain the servers and the devs and everything. Is it going to make us 100 million? I don't know, but we can just save 100 million by firing those people or by having the servers go down and so on. So it's kind of the mentality that like every company has, because it's just a big company. It's publicly traded, has a stock price. The stock price moves on revenues and so on. That's kind of how it goes. So yeah, then on the Illuvium Council side, well, we have a game council. I think especially on the game council, it's on us to give input to the long-term things and to sometimes justify, well, maybe this is not the best decision for the next quarter, but it's going to be really, really good a year in the future, or it's going to be really, really good 5 years in the future. We should maybe not develop the system to only work for 1 year and then we have to overhaul it. Maybe we should develop it to stand the test of time, right? And that's where this like decentralized council and decision-making thing kind of comes in, because it is the DAO first. Yes, we should obviously care about the revenue. It's still essentially a publicly traded company with a token and everything. But we definitely can give more input and have more of a voice for the long-term views.
That's a great point. I really like that. I never heard this before, that there's no leaderboard in the game, but you can do it outside of the game. And I really like the approach of you don't have to implement everything. You can really give your community the option to do a lot of stuff for you and just develop things, like be it like custom maps, be it leaderboards, be it like the YouTube social media. There's so much things that can be outsourced to the community, and it's really cool to hear that with a leaderboard as well. Because if I'm in a game casually, just I want to play it a little bit, a leaderboard is not really helping me. It's just disencouraging me.
Yeah.
What you said about Riot, it makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it that way. Obviously, it's kind of the obvious answer because they are a company. They are in competition with everybody else, and they just need to see green numbers. That's all that matters in the first place. And that makes sense because in the recent years, since they like put away questionable game modes like Dominion or whatever, they have been focusing much more on skins, for example. Like every week, there's like 5 skins coming out. That is the most work
that
is
look amazing, actually.
being done. Yeah, and it makes sense because that brings the revenue in. So it's, I think it's a bit too much focus on that, but Riot is very successful, so they probably have a good balance there, and it makes sense. And I guess what you said with Illuvium, like we as a DAO, we still have to focus on revenue and on green numbers still, but we can have like those, like for example, the fun game mode Dominion, who not so many players play. We can still try to support it to have like an overall better game experience and just a better IP, so to say, even though if it doesn't bring in straight up revenue. So yeah, that's really cool to see that we can do things for the community and not so much for the consumers, I guess.
Yeah, very much.
It's our balance, of course. Like we still need to bring in the revenue.
Yeah. It's more of a question of like taking the short term versus a long term approach, right? And a lot of things in the world, especially financially speaking, are pretty much breaking right now because people took short term approaches over and over again. So I think there's a good case for the mentality of maybe we shouldn't follow these footsteps to some extent, at least. Another good example for essentially community-driven outsourcing things is Warcraft 3, right? Warcraft 3 still had a pretty active scene, even though Battle.net was unplayable because you could cheat and everything. Battle.net was completely unplayable if you wanted to play PvP on a somewhat serious level. So just, I don't know, at one software dev pretty much took it on himself to create an entire leaderboard and add-on client that was a like match-made you with other people using that. And then you had an elo system attached to it. It was like the map separation, everything. It was pretty much one person that later got a few people on the team and whatnot, right? But that was entirely community-driven. Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne would pretty much have ceased to exist without that. Like, there would have been maybe some Battle.net servers, but nobody would have seriously been playing it. And there was an esports scene. There is an esports scene to it still. And so on. That was still like a very hobby-driven competitive game that people maintained from a community perspective. That the company didn't really do anything with it. But the company also didn't make any money off it, right? So it didn't have any microtransactions in it or whatnot. And then when they wanted to release Warcraft Reforged, which was one of the worst things ever to be tried to release, I think. So Warcraft 3 Refunded was a good one. Then they essentially tried to like get some in the community, made some patches and changes and whatnot, but after that has tremendously failed and backlashed onto them. They've now given up on it again, and it's just community driven again.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. Reforged, because I grew up on Warcraft 3 and also just seeing like having a fun map, custom map editor and seeing what came out of this. Like they pretty much pioneered battle royales, tower defenses, MOBAs like League of Legends, and a few other ones, and auto battlers, for example. It comes all from there, and it's all just people being creative in the game they're passionate for, because the project and the studio has given the tools to the people and allowed them to do this. And when you look at games like our franchises like Nintendo, who are like copyright striking their users because they like made like a mod for fun in Zelda, so it's multiplayer or whatever. Like there was a lot of outrage, and Nintendo is like the worst company for their community. I feel like they're really strict and really try to be police behind it. I think it's a really better way to go, like the route of Blizzard, for example, where you have like in-game add-ons, you have custom maps, and the company just allows all those things to happen.
Blizzard did change that though over the time as well, right? Like now in Reforged they changed the TOS that if somebody like would make something, Blizzard would own all of it. It's not that you own what you make. So they didn't want to have another Dota accident of missing out on that and so on.
Oh yeah, that must have hurt. Like that's a that's a really tough story for them.
Yeah, but Fortnite did that thing again, right? Where they pretty much allow people to create whatever, and then Fortnite gets a cut of it. The people that created get a cut of it. Everybody is happy, essentially. It's like I don't know. The Nintendo idea is like a zero-sum game. It's like if we don't get the money of the customer, then we lose the customer, right? They don't think that like, oh, there's like a lot of cool stuff. We get more customers. They view it on a different criteria. I mean, something like HoYoverse, right? The Chinese company that made Genshin Impact, Star Rail, like Honkai series in general, they have that as well, right? No touching their games, no macros, no add-ons, no leaked data mined content on YouTube. They will ban you for that. It's just a different approach to the company because they also think, well, if we allow people to do that, then we lose the customer. And the other one thinks just like, just more customers, more money, cool.
It's basically free marketing, all this stuff. That's the other approach. I guess it's also a bit of cultural background from like Japan and Chinese, which are a little bit more very strict on the rules and try to not like give people like the freedom to do anything with their product. But here's the product, and that's what you do with it.
Definitely more strict conservative mindset than the Western world has nowadays.
Blizzard, now they like you said, they don't allow they don't want to miss out on another Dota, and it has been pretty tough on them, I guess, because from their custom game came Dota, and then League of Legends just took it and ran with it. Finally, a new thing comes out, auto chess from inside Dota, from a fun map, and then TFT comes and just takes it over. Blizzard,
Blizzard.
This really shows how much better I think Riot is in making those games that are really for the mainstream.
I mean, Blizzard's auto battlers, it's like the House of Battlegrounds one, right? I think that's actually a good game, but I think they missed out on such a big opportunity as a company because they tried to rush out the product, right? Like the auto battle was like the big hype idea on strategy games. It's like, we all had these card games, and now it's like the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, the holograms fighting each other and so on. It just looks a bit cooler. You have more design options. It's like objectively the better genre moving forward, or like the advanced version of the genre, kind of. So they just pushed out the game really quickly. I think they missed on such a big opportunity because Blizzard IPs are so cool and iconic. They could have just made a Blizzard universe auto battle, not in this Hearthstone universe, and just be like, you have Diablo. Yeah. I mean, Heroes of the Storm, if it would have been a mobile game like League of Legends Wild Rift, probably would have done well. It just wasn't a PC game. It wasn't like the people that played League of Legends and Dota on PC, they would never switch to Heroes of the Storm. But somebody wanting to play MOBA on their phone, that would have been a really good game. Like it was pretty much designed for that, but maybe a few years too early. Maybe they should have again waited until adapting to mobile was easier, or people had better phones and whatnot. But yeah, the auto battler, and they could have had Deathwing, Diablo, all the Destiny characters. Or they could have had all those.
I want to play it right now.
They could have had all of that. They would have. You have had so many people that just want to play that for like, I want to play my Deathwing team comp. I want to play my Diablo team comp. Am I Illidan or